Recording.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Claire Brilio. I'm just going to wait a few minutes while we have our participants coming in. We have about 180. How many, Brianne? How many do we have registered for this one?
201.
201. Okay, so we're going to give some time. You are muted. No videos. As you can tell, you might have joined us before. Just give it a minute or two. I'll wait till 12:02 to start. Hi, Dan. Did you email me earlier? Someone named Dan emailed me earlier. Let me see. No, not your Dan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll get started in 1 minute. Good afternoon, Peter. I hope everyone is enjoying the lovely Southern California weather. I hear it's cloudy today.
And rainy.
And rainy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually in Portland, Oregon at the moment, and it was snowing yesterday. So I miss that Southern California weather, that's for sure. Okay, we are going to get started. My name is Claire Brilio. I'm the Communications Director and the Business Disruption Resource Director for the Economic Development Collaborative. If you haven't heard of us before, we host a small business development center that serves Santa Barbara and Ventura County. We are funded by the SBA. We have about 30 plus consultants on staff who are experts in their field that can assist you at no cost. This webinar is provided for free, as you already know, but you will get the opportunity at the end of this webinar to connect with one of our consultants, again, at no cost to you. We'll give you the number for our English and Spanish hotline. If there are any Spanish-speaking business owners on with us now, welcome. Juliana, who will be presenting, is fluent in Spanish, and we'll try our very best to answer all your questions. So we have this webinar schedule structured a little differently than last time. Primarily, we'll be running through the programs available for businesses that have been impacted by COVID-19 and focusing a lot on Q&A. So just a couple housekeeping orders here. And we will go over the grant too. Yes, Richard, we will go over the grant opportunity. For those of you who are new to this platform, please enter your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And if you're having technical difficulties, use the chat feature. So please move your questions to the Q&A section. If you have already put your question in the chat feature, we want to capture all of those questions and hopefully get through as many as we can today. And just a special announcement, not announcement, but commercial for our sole proprietors. If you are a sole proprietor, if you know that your legal entity as a business is being self-employed, sole proprietor, gig economy worker, you're not incorporated. I've worked with many clients who don't know their legal organizational status. So if you know you're a sole proprietor, please know that the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection program, is available to you. Do not be shy in applying, but I would highly recommend that you connect with one of our financial advisors first, and Juliana will explain why. It is a little tricky for sole proprietors to obtain PPP, but you are completely eligible. And I believe Montecito Bank and Trust is taking applications for sole proprietors and among other lenders, but that one comes to mind specifically. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this off to Juliana. She is one of our top financial experts at the EDC SBDC. And again, you can meet with her at no cost at the end of this program or when she has time, because she also runs her own accounting business. So thank you very much, and hats off to you, Juliana.
Right. Thank you so much, Claire, and welcome everyone. I want to take just a moment to address our Spanish-speaking clients or attendees. Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Bienvenidos. Les queremos compartir que si tienen alguna pregunta o necesitan asistencia, pueden comunicarse al número que que está compartiendo, lo estamos compartiendo en el chat para que nos llamen, y tenemos asesores que hablamos español. Yo soy una de ellas, pero tenemos más asesores que hablan español que les pueden ayudar más intensamente con sus preguntas específicas sobre su situación. No tengan miedo de llamarnos. La información está otra vez en el chat. Muchas gracias. And thank you again, everyone, for being here. We will be covering, I will be going over an overview of the programs that are still available and providing you some updates. I will start with the update of the California Relief Grant. Also, the Paycheck Protection Program. There's really no changes yet. And most of the information here is still the same. Our goal today is to answer as many as of your questions. And I will be going over the SBO grant program in more detail. That's where we are. I know last week there was high interest of learning more details on that. So I have a little bit more information for you. And so we'll go ahead and get started. As you know, the California Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant was, aids to small businesses and nonprofits that have been impacted by COVID-19 and the health and safety restrictions. All applicants that completed their application on round 1 and submitted necessary documentation during that first round have been notified if they were selected to receive a grant, waitlisted for the second round, or not selected. Any applicant that is waitlisted will not need to complete an application during the second round. The second round will be opening on February 2nd at 8 a.m. and closing on February 8th at 6 p.m. The start of approval notifications will be from February 11th to the 18th, and the waitlist notice will be going out on February 22nd, and non-selection notice February 24th. Once again, this program is not first come, first served. We want to remind everyone about how the recipients were and will be determined on both rounds. They were the recipients were determined based on businesses located in areas impacted the most by the effects of COVID-19, based on COVID health and safety restrictions following California's blueprint for a safer economy, local county status, and regional stay-at-home orders available at the website here listed. Also, businesses impacted businesses that were impacted the most financially based on gross revenue losses. Number 3, certain impacted industries, including retail, food and hospitality, health and wellness, and personal care, like beauty salons, spas, and barbershops. And number 4, for those groups that were underserved or are considered underserved small business groups, meaning number 1, women-owned, minority person of color owned, or veteran-owned businesses that were at least 51% of the business is owned by one of these minorities and run on a daily basis, again, by this group. Number 2 is businesses located in low to moderate income and rural communities. So just remember that, especially if you have not heard yet. This is maybe one of the reasons you haven't heard. That does not mean a denial. They're just giving priority to how these, to these groups. One reminder is that, when to know when to, how to know when to contact EDC regarding anything related to the California Small Business COVID-19. You need to contact us when you have general questions about the program, such as the program overview, eligibility, or application process. When you have questions about the application process, including how to apply, how to complete the application, and what information is needed. You need help completing the application or uploading documents. You need help with the application in another language. and you would like resources to help guide you through the application process, as well as you have questions about what documentation is required for the grant. So if you have any questions related to, anything that is listed here, this is when you need to contact us. We will be happy to assist you with this. When to contact Lendistry. You contact Lendistry when you've submitted an application and need help fixing an error in the information you provided, when you cannot locate your username and password for the portal, when you have tried resetting your password, but it's still you cannot log in, and you are receiving an error message when submitting an application and are uploading documents. That is when you would want to contact Lendistry. If it is anything related as to how to complete the application, then give us a call. You can contact Lendistry at their call center at 888-612-4370, and their hours are currently 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And of course, we highly encourage you to visit our CaliforniaReliefGrant.com for a complete overview of the program and for access to the application guides for both for-profit businesses and nonprofit organizations. I highly encourage you to review the application guides. If you are a for-profit business, specifically to understand or to know exactly what information you need to provide in the application, and also to review, the process of how they are, making the selection. It's all in those guides. So we highly encourage you to visit. This is where they're also posting updates related to dates and what's happening. So just keep that in mind. Now moving on to what's available. The Paycheck Protection programs is still available. As you know, there's 3 layers within this program. There's first draw, second draw, and modified first draw. If you've never received a PPP loan, particularly if you were a sole proprietor, independent contractor, self-employed individual, I personally have assisted many salon owners or barbers or salon practitioners who didn't think that they qualified for the PPP, and this is why they didn't apply. Claire mentioned this at the beginning, and it is very important to understand that when you're a sole proprietor, you're working for yourself. So even though you don't get a paycheck, you still can apply for this loan. Obviously, the way that you filed your taxes, particularly sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed individuals, if you are not incorporated, you are filing a Schedule C. You still have a profit and loss and a profit and loss within your tax return, and that's what it's used, line 31, to be able to qualify you for this program. So again, we encourage you to contact us if you need assistance knowing what you qualify for or how you would qualify. Also, the second draw, it's a forgivable loan up to $2 million. It's also available for sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed individuals, and businesses with less than 300 employees, and must have exhausted their first PPP loan. Also experience more than 25% decline gross receipts in a quarter compared to 2019. And the modified first draw, there's still a little bit more information that that some banks or that the banks are waiting for as guidance as to how to modify that first draw. So again, if you have any questions related to your PPP loan that you've already obtained or that you are working towards obtaining, we encourage you to contact your lender if you're already working with somebody to see how they would, how they're processing your application or the status of your application. Also, for the Paycheck Protection Program, if you have already received that PPP loan and want to obtain forgiveness, as you know, the first draw of PPP loans made eligible to borrowers who qualify for a full loan forgiveness if during the 8 to 24 week covered period following loan disbursement fulfilled the loan terms. That means that they spent the money the way that they were supposed to. Let's remember that this PPP loan was designed to keep your employees on your payroll, and that you continue paying them even if they were not working. The eligibility for that is that your employee and compensation levels were maintained. The loan proceeds are spent on payroll costs and other eligible expenses, and at least 60% of the proceeds are spent on payroll costs. The second route PPP, will follow the same guidelines. And of course, to apply for forgiveness, you need to contact your PPP lender and complete the correct form. We have seen that every lender has its own, most of the lenders have its own portal and the way they're processing these forgiveness applications. Once they receive it, they will send it to the SBA for approval of forgiveness and then let you know about the confirmation. So make sure that you compile all your documentation and that you provide those documents, both your payroll and non-payroll documents if you use it for both, payroll if you only used it for that. You, like I said, will submit this to your lender and then they will let you know what's next in the process. There, another program that's still available, it's the Social Security employee and employer portion deferral. So this allows employers to defer the deposit and payment of the employer's share of Social Security taxes and self-employed individuals to defer payment of certain self-employment taxes and employees who also elect to participate. So for instance, if you are an employer and you are contributing to Social Security and Medicare, that is the portion that can get deferred. So normally you would be asked to deposit that money either right after payroll or once a month or once a quarter, depending on your tax liability. Well, through this deferral program, you are able to you wouldn't need to send payments to the IRS right away. You can defer them to, later in 2022. Also, the employee retention tax credit is another option that it's available. This is a refundable and advanceable tax credit of up to $14,000 per employee. This is for businesses with 500 or fewer employees that experience more than 20% decline of gross receipts in a quarter compared to 2019. Employers can get immediate access to the credit by reducing employment tax deposits they are otherwise required to make. And also, if the employer's employment tax deposits are not sufficient to cover the credit, the employer may get an advance payment from the IRS. This is particularly for businesses that have paid all of their taxes. When they file their 941, you'll be able to see that within that form, you can claim this credit. And this is how you will get that money, or you can submit an advance of employer credit due to COVID-19 form 7200. A couple other options is the targeted EIDL advance and the EIDL loans. The purpose of the targeted EIDL advance is it's a set amount of funds that has been set aside to targeted businesses or to targeted areas. So this is for 300 or fewer employees located in a census tract eligible for new market tax credit that experienced 30% reduction in gross receipts for an 8-week period between 3/2/2020 and 12/31/2020 compared to a similar period in 2019. For those businesses who are, interested or that would like to know about the targeted EIDL advance, there is no process or application for this. What the way that it's being granted is the SBA is going to be contacting those businesses that they have identified under this area or this located areas. So you are not able to apply for this targeted advance, yourself. You would just need to wait. If you already received an EIDL loan or applied for an EIDL loan, the SBA will, follow that process of contacting those businesses directly. So there's no action to be done on your part. Also for the Eidl loans, the purpose of those loans are to meet financial obligations and operating expenses that could have been met had the disaster not occurred. That is working capital and normal operating expenses, such as, continuation of healthcare benefits, rent, utilities, fixed debt payments, etc. The terms for that loan is 3.75% for businesses. This is a fixed rate. Also 2.75 for nonprofits. You can get up to 30 years to repay this loan. You can pay it sooner. You don't have to do it for the 30 years because there's no prepayment penalties or fees. For those loans that are larger than $25,000, they do require a personal guarantee, and the SBA uses a general security agreement known as the UCC, designating business assets as collateral. For example, your machinery and equipment, furniture and fixtures. One thing that I want to remind everyone, especially if you've received this loan, is that that UCC agreement states that you need permission from the SBA to be able to dispose of those assets that you've already guaranteed on, or that especially if you're planning on closing the business or selling the business. It is important that you communicate with the SBA because that agreement has been signed stating that you need authorization from them. So just remember that. Other coronavirus relief options are the SBA Express Bridge loans and the SBA debt relief. The purpose of the SBA Express Bridge loan is that it enables small businesses who currently have a business relationship with an SBA Express lender to access up to $25,000 quickly. And if a small business has an urgent need for cash while waiting for a decision and disbursement of an Eidl loan, they may qualify for an SBA Express Disaster Bridge loan. So this is for those businesses who, have already, they already have a relationship with their lender, who is again an SBA approved lender, that they've already applied for the Eidl loan. They've received, the approval, let's say, and they're waiting for disbursement of that loan. That means that you've already been told, yes, you do qualify for this amount. You've already accepted the amount and you're just now waiting to hear back as to when the disbursement of that loan is. Then this bridge loan is what is meant to do, just cover that period while you get those funds, which means that when you do receive those funds from your Eidl loan, you will need to pay back this loan with that money. Okay, that's what the intention of this bridge loan is. And for those that already have a loan, an SBA loan that was issued prior to September 27, the SBA is providing financial assistance to by making the payment, by deferring these not deferring, but making these payments on principal and interest. And any associated fees that borrowers owe for all current 7A, 504, and microloans in regular servicing status, as well as new loans that were issued prior to September 27, 2020. So if you had received a loan from the SBA or from an SBA lender, make sure that you can communicate with that lender to find out what type of loan you have, that it is an SBA approved loan, and that you are receiving this assistance if you're not already doing so. Now I want to move into more detail of the last or one of the other resources that is available. That is the live venue grant the purpose of this grant is it's meant to help those live venue businesses. The grant is up to 10 million or 45% of your 2019 gross earned revenue, whichever is less, and at least 2 billion of the total grant is reserved for small operators with up to 50 full-time employees. The eligible entities include live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organization operators, relevant museum operators, zoos, and aquariums who meet specific criteria, motion picture theaters, theater operators, talent representatives, and each business entity owned by an eligible entity that also meets the eligibility requirements. We are still waiting for more guidance on the, on specific businesses. I know there was a lot of question about, what a live venue is required. Falls under this category. The SBA is still working on providing that information. So as far as if you fulfill or if you fit within this this type of entities, we are still waiting on more information from the SBA. Other requirements to note is that you must have been in operation as of February 29, 2020, and the venue or promoter must not have received a PPP loan on or after December 27. So what I wanted to go over here is how you can integrate other programs within this live venue grant, specifically if you qualify under this entity. You are not prohibited from applying for an SVO grant, for an SVO grant if you already have a COVID Eidl loan or plan to apply for one, and if you received the first drop PPP prior to December 27, 2020. If you received a PPP after December 27, 2020, then you would not qualify. So keep in mind that as you decide how you want to, if you should apply for the live for the SVO grant or if you should apply for the PPP. So understanding what each of those does, which I will describe here, deciding between either the SVO grant or the PPP or the and how they each interact. The PPP is used primarily to cover payroll costs for employees rather than independent contractors. It is a forgivable loan if certain standards and eligibility requirements are met, which we already, have covered. The SVO, you need to prove eligibility requirements, that you qualify under that eligibility. And it does allow for broader use of funds, like paying your independent contractor, and it does not need to be paid. And the COVID EIDL loan is used primarily to cover working capital had the pandemic not occurred. So this is very important for you to understand what you are using this funds for if you qualify under one of these entities. Applying for a PPP after December 27 grant does not have any impact on your COVID EIDL eligibility. So your EIDL loan you can still apply for your PPP and EIDL loan, just not the SVO grant. The way that you calculate the funds for this grant, it depends on when the organization was in operation first. So if it was in operation from 1/1/19, they can take either 45% of 2019 gross earned revenue. And if in operation after 1/1/19, then you need to calculate the average monthly gross revenue for each full month in operation during 2019. Multiplied by 6. So if you started your business, mid-February, then you would only use 10 months to calculate your 2019 gross revenue and then divide that by 6 months. So it has to be a full month that you were in operation. So if you started your business after 1/1/19, then obviously that's when you need to worry about how to calculating that. But if you've been in business, since 1/1/19, then it is just the 45% of gross earned revenue. The SBA, like I said, is not accepting yet applications for this grant, and it'll publicize date of application in advance, and everyone can apply. SBA will process in order of priority. And when I say everyone could apply, I mean that those businesses that qualify under the entities eligible for this type of grant. Also, if you are selected or if your business is selected to receive this grant, they will have several priority dates or ways of how they're going to be granting these grants. The first priority, which would which they hope to be between the first 14 days of the grant, is for entities that suffered a 90% or greater revenue loss between April 2020 through December 2020 due to COVID-19 pandemic. The second priority is next 14 days of the grant awards. These entities are those that suffer 70% or greater revenue loss between April 2020 through December 2020, again, due to COVID-19. And the third priority is beginning 28 days after the first and second priority awards are made, for those entities that suffered a 25% or greater revenue loss between April 2020 through December 2020, again, due to COVID-19. After that, after these priorities have been met, then there could be supplemental funding available at first and second priority. So those recipients of first and second priority round who suffered a 70% or greater revenue loss for the most recent calendar quarter as of 4/1/2021 or later. The application process is that after these phases, then funds, you want to make sure that the funds can be used for specific expenses such as payroll, rent, utilities, and other costs. Like we mentioned, there are some limitations, and please check the website for specifics. We'll be sharing the website in a minute in the next slide. Grantees will be required to maintain documentation demonstrating compliance and eligibility and must retain records for 4 years following receipt of grant funds. So my best recommendation to you is, first of all, start gathering all the information related to monthly revenues. Make a list of how you would use funds if awarded the grant, because that is going to be part of the application process. If you need technical assistance, you can call us at EDC, or you may also send questions to svogrant@sba.gov. It has been requested to place the topic of your question in the subject line. And again, if you need technical assistance, for instance, of gathering all your information and making a list of how you're going to use the funds, that's when you want to call EDC, and one of our advisors will help you, in making sure that you have everything you need to apply for this grant. The best source for latest information is sba.gov/coronavirus relief. You can then, click on shuttered venue grant, and that's how you can obtain. Again, the information we have is the information that's on that website. So I don't have much more detail as far as what businesses specifically fall under these categories. But we're waiting for that information, and of course we'll make it available as soon as we have it. And this is where we encourage you to continue coming to our webinars each week. And I had already covered the ERTC credit. I'm going to share more detail on this at our next our next webinar. I wanted to choose one of the two, and I did the shuttered venue grant. And another resource for those of you who have a business where you're collecting sales tax, the deadlines have been extended. So if you are paying sales tax, for those that needed to file their fourth quarter sales tax and annual returns, they were originally due next Monday. However, the extension has been moved to April 30th. So you can check the website here to find out more information about each deadline, particularly as these sales taxes are due. And there hasn't been really much change on the expanded unemployment benefits, as we've encouraged you, last week, and we will continue to encourage you. As if you've already, submitted a claim and you're already receiving those benefits, then follow those guidelines and that communication. If you're still having, problems or or difficulty, be patient. Be patient as you are, waiting or submitting requests. Of course, if there's assistance that you need to understand or to gather up your information, please, you may contact EDC to help you with that. And also, if you have already exhausted any of the other resources and are still looking to obtain a loan, or if you didn't qualify for any of the other programs or could not apply, we encourage you to also consider our EDC Disaster Loan Fund. Obviously, in addition to our traditional EDC loans, EDC is offering a 4.25 interest loans from $5,000 to $50,000 through our Disaster Loan Fund to give a cash flow boost to businesses impacted by reduced sales, supply chain disruption, or other challenges related to COVID-19. The first 3 months are interest only, and it's a 48-month term. Women Economic Ventures also has their WEAP Restarts loans in addition to their regular WEAP Basic Loan Program. So we encourage you to visit their website and contact them if you are interested or would like to find out more details on that. You can also visit the SBA website for other COVID-19 funding options. When you click on that site, you'll be able to enter your zip code. And when you enter that zip code, you will get a list of all the other programs available locally around you. So just a reminder on that. And of course, for the latest information, visit our EDC collaborative or edcollaborative.com, COVID-19 resource guide. We post information there so you can stay up to date. And if you want to connect with one of our advisors, you can contact our EDC hotline at 805-409-9159 and in English. And if you are a Spanish speaker or you prefer to be assisted in Spanish, you can contact 309-5874. And now I'm ready for questions.
Great job as always, my friend.
Let's see, should I stop sharing? Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So great job, Juliana, as always. We've got a ton of questions, but I first want to just clarify. My name is Emily. I run a company called Visionality. I am not an EDC consultant. I'm here as Juliana's wacky sidekick to help sort of translate the complicated stuff that she shares with you and make sure we get all your questions answered. Okay, first question. What documents, oh, thank you, team. We've got a poll. Take a couple minutes while we're going through these questions to tell us a little bit more about you so that we can serve you better. Okay. Juliana, what documents do people need to upload in order to request PPP forgiveness?
So if you use, depending on what you use the money for, so if you use it all for payroll, then the types of documents that you'll need to provide are your payroll details reports from your payroll provider, or if you're running your own payroll through QuickBooks, let's say, or any other software, you are going to need those payroll details report for the cover period of your PPP loan. So for instance, let's say you borrowed, your disbursement was May 1st and it ended, either 8 or 24 weeks later. Let's just say that was, August 1st. I know that's not exact 24 weeks, but, just to give an example of the cover period, then you will run payroll reports that cover those, those dates. So run a payroll details report for those dates, as well as quarterly forms like your 941, DE9, and DE9C. That is the type of documentation you'll need to upload or for forgiveness.
Great, thank you. I have seen so many people in the chat and the Q&A who have said they applied for the California COVID relief grant and they have heard nothing back. So do you have any insight onto what's going on, when they might hear, what they should do?
Yes, so like I mentioned at the beginning, they have done the runs. Those that have been selected have been notified. Those that have been waitlisted have been notified, and those that were not selected have been notified. The ones that have not heard, it could possibly it could be a series of things. The most common is if you were having trouble applying, like where you tried applying and you weren't getting an email, and then you try applying again, and then you weren't getting an email, and then on the third time you applied and you did get an email. Those are that Lendistry is working through those applications to make sure. Remember when we had that webinar when it was almost the deadline, and we said the best thing to do is right now to apply and go through the entire process. So they're going through those applications to to make sure that they're choosing the correct application, and then they can follow up from there.
Great.
That you haven't heard, that is one of the reasons why. Other reasons could be that the information is not complete or or incorrect, and obviously you'll need to wait to hear from Lendistry to let you know, hey, we are working in the process. We're in the process. We're working on through a lot of applications. So they'll be contacting you.
Great. Follow up to that and related to that, it sounds like this person, the application froze midway through. They told me that it is due to this, they put my application at the bottom of the list and they haven't looked at it yet. So what should she do? Just hold tight? Does she need to reapply second round?
Yeah. No need to reapplication. If they've told you that they're working on it, then you just need to be patient. Unfortunately, there's no there's no work around that. Remember, they did receive over 300,000 applications, and one of the things that Lendistry has shared with us is that they did receive duplicates, and that is what's kind of holding up the process. Unfortunately, of course, this is a program that a lot of businesses applied for, so just be patient.
We got a number of questions about the grant criteria selection. If I was not selected and now I'm waitlisted, how come I don't just automatically get round 2? So let's talk through the way that they're prioritizing the grant awards so that people just have some peace around that.
Yeah, so once again, if you recall, we at the beginning on my update, I reminded everyone what the determination was to the selection. So if you fall under, one or all of those categories, right? If you're a minority business, if you are in an area that's being affected, if you've had, a significant amount of loss, right? Like they're gonna prioritize based on all of those, check marks. So that's how they're doing that process. So if you met all of the 4, right, but maybe not all your information was completed. One of the issues that Lendistry has been going through is that when applicants submitted information, they were supposed to select each document within the portal, right, to upload the document. And a lot of them, they still submitted all the applications under one line item, which it's still a complete application, but because it has all the documents within one line item, that's holding up the process. So even if you met all of that criteria, but you didn't, let's say, select each document, correctly, that is one of the things that's holding up the process. So the fact that you haven't been, notified, that doesn't mean that that you're not going to, and that you'll be notified what the next step is. You just need to understand that you gotta wait through, the process. That's very important. If you recall applying, having issues in the middle of the application and had to kind of restart, then you most likely, are under that list.
Great. There was one question. I filled out my Lendistry application. I didn't receive an email, acceptance or denial. I filled in the 2019-2020 revenue part, but I did not upload any other information. So what should I do now?
So if you were notified that you had a username and password, and then you didn't you should have been notified and say, here is your username and password, go ahead and upload the information. If you didn't, then you're gonna, our suggestion is that when the second window opens, that you don't need to reapply, meaning you don't have to start the process again. You use your username and password so that you can then upload those documents.
Great. I uploaded the required documents. This is for the grant. I logged in and it looks like another document was added. Are you aware of Lendistry uploading any documents?
Lendistry that I'm aware of is not uploading any documents, except if there is, not that they're uploading, it could be part of their of the process applications. I do know that they are if you were selected and they told you you've been selected and you need to verify that everything's there. Possibly the document that is the agreement, although that document, which is that grantee agreement, is going to come via DocuSign. So I'm not aware of them uploading any documents. So I would check to see if you can see what document has been uploaded, so you can identify if it's something that you probably didn't realize you uploaded yourself, you duplicated that upload, or if it's truly, just maybe a document that looks from DocuSign, but I'm not aware of them uploading that.
Great. Here's a fun one. Please be candid with me, Juliana.
Okay.
I am a male and white. I have a 10-person LLC in Simi Valley. Am I last to be considered and awarded the grant?
I don't know.
Sorry, Robert.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that not just the the underserved community or the minority community was the ones that were that were impacted. We were all impacted in some way, shape, or form. So this is one of the reasons that there's multiple programs available. So if you have if you've already exhausted those applying for those programs, unfortunately we're all together in this. So unfortunately it's a matter of just continue to move forward in the best way possible, and be patient, and let's hope for another round of help.
Yeah, and we've sort of seen that pattern where it feels like the different jurisdictions release sort of like a trial amount of money almost, and then sort of judge the need. And if they see a really high need, they release more funds. So I'm very optimistic that now that they see the demand for this, the continued demand for support, that they'll keep that cash flowing.
Yeah.
And you're not alone, my friend. I have a colleague who's a woman of color who runs, she's an esthetician. And so she was notified that she got funding and I was waitlisted. So yes, I'm a woman, but I'm white, and she had greater losses in her business than I did. So they definitely are prioritizing those like special groups. But just hold tight. You're not alone. You're really not alone.
I did also want to say that that is, I've heard of, some individuals who do not like answering those questions of, white American, and the race. However, that is how, they know where the most need is, right? And so just keep that in mind. And if, enough of us are, completing that application and letting them know that there's a great need, then, they'll, we're going to stay hopeful that they will, listen and get us the help that we need.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that there's more coming. I know it's really hard to be patient right now. And so I just want to come to you guys as a fellow business owner that you're not alone. You have to hold on just a little bit longer. Like, all indications show that the Biden administration is going to put a lot of support behind businesses. And so like, just don't give up yet. Like, we're really close and you're not alone.
Yes. Emily, I want to remind everyone to please post their questions on their Q&A. I know that some of you are posting them on the chat. It will be very helpful that you put them in the Q&A. That way we make sure that we get through all your questions. Thank you.
Yes. Second time for PPP, how do you choose the time span?
So as far as when you apply for the loan, or what time span?
I think he's talking about the covered period. So remember, the first one had like 8 or 24 weeks. So
Yes.
for second round PPP, do we have that same 8 or 24? And
Yes.
how do you choose which one is best for you?
Okay, so you do have, it is the same as the previous one. So you still have 8 to 24 weeks. And obviously, depending on the amount of your loan and how, if you're going to be able to use it within either 8 weeks or 24 weeks, it's completely up to you. Also, this time around, you don't need to choose either 8 or 24. You can end at 13, although you're still gonna, if you go over the 8, then you're automatically within the 24-week window. And then as far as what documentation you provide to apply for the PPP loan, you can choose to do 2019 numbers or 2020 numbers from payroll, especially for those of you who continued paying your employees and you didn't, you use your PPP loan to be able to, you kept your employees on payroll. So if you did, and your payroll reports may not look different from 2019. So you can choose to do 2019 or 2020.
Great, thank you. We were told that as a 501c8, we did not qualify for Eidl, yet another organization with the same designation did receive a loan. Do you know why?
I wouldn't know the answer. If that is part of the qualifications. I mean, if you're already working through, if you were notified and you were contacted by an SBA officer, I would pose that question directly to them just to make sure that, you get the right answer from the right person.
Yeah, and so I was not awarded an Aidl loan after the Thomas fire, and it was a very strange process, and unfortunately it does kind of matter who is the actual person that you're talking to. And so yeah, I agree with you. Talk to the representative, like they'll assign you like a case manager to make the decision. So call that person directly and talk it through.
Yes, I also want to remind everyone that there, excuse me, that there is a reconsideration process.
Yes.
So, call EDC to get that information, to either the number for reconsideration or the email for reconsideration. So if you think that you should have been, awarded, or I'm sorry, qualified for the loan, and because it's a very identical organization, got awarded, then make sure that you go through that process of reconsideration. Like you said, Emily, maybe the officer, is looking at it different, but I'm not aware of them just, picking and choosing. I think there might be something within all the requirements that maybe you might have not met that the other organization did meet. So let's just make sure that that it's not just that's the only reason. If it is, I will attest it if you know of someone that did receive it. So that's what I would do through the reconsideration process.
Great. Please clarify how a sole proprietor who's already received an Eidl grant, but I bet she means loan, will be able to receive a second Eidl. So, but let's talk both about the loan and the grant. So first, can you apply for a second Eidl loan?
You can, however, if you're applying for the loan and what you're trying to do is increasing the amount of that loan, again, work with your, SBA. I would, again, you must have been contacted by your SBA officer, and go through the process there. Now, regarding the grant was awarded to those businesses that applied for an EIDL loan before their funds ran out on those grants. And so if they received that grant, then let's say that they had 2 employees or a sole proprietor who was, they claimed themselves. So that would be 1 employee, right? Because that's the other thing that we need to understand, that when you're self-employed, you are your own, boss and your own employee. So you are a member of 1, right? So, or an employee 1. So make sure, so if you did and you received that Eidl grant based on, let's say, $1,000, Now, the targeted EIDL advance, those set aside funds will be determined based on, again, those locations that were most impacted or that are, under low income. So if you receive the $1,000 grant and you want to, you wonder if you qualify for the additional 9,000 or you qualify for more regarding the grant piece, there's no way for you to apply for that grant. So you will need to wait to see if that the SBA contacts you.
Great. And one more plug for the survey. Please take a couple minutes to fill that out so we know who you are and how we can serve you better. If we are on the waiting list for the grant, what is the probability we have to get a grant in the second round?
So keep in mind that even though there is a misconception that the full $500,000 or the 475 million will be disbursed in the first round. And that is not true. It's only half of that. So 237.5 million is what is being, allocated for that first round. So the probability to get it on the second round is pretty much the same probability that you had right now. Again, keep in mind that there were over 300,000 applicants. And although they haven't released how many have received or how many have been selected, they are not using all the funds in the first round. This is why your probability, it's still remains as if you were in the first round.
Yeah, and two, so they're going to open up. We want to clarify one more time. So it's too late to apply for first round grants, but they will open it up for a second round application. So anyone who already applied is automatically waitlisted for second round. However, all the second round applications are going to have those same prioritizations. So, I get the special bump because I'm a woman-owned business, but I may still be behind, even though I was a first round applicant, I may still be behind second round applicants who have more of those like preferred categories. So there really is no way to know what the chances are. And so I'm just going to say again, I have a lot of faith that they're going to keep releasing funds as long as there's like such a high demand for this program.
Right. And also I want to make sure that everyone, remembers that, there is once again a great need. And also when you mentioned about, reapplying, if you haven't been told that you are not selected, then your chance is still pretty high. So if you were told that you were waitlisted or you haven't heard, you have a pretty good chance. If you were told you're not eligible, then that there is a particular reason why you were not eligible, and they would have let you know. And what we have heard is that most of the ones that are so far, the ones that are not eligible is maybe those that were over the 2.5 million in sales, and keep that in mind too. So, just don't lose hope.
Don't lose hope. Someone asked, what the heck do you mean by really close? I think we're really close to more support. I also really truly believe things are going to turn around quickly the more vaccinations we get. And so hold on. I think we've seen the darkest days. I think things will get better, and I think they're going to feel a lot better really quickly. So
And if you're still uncertain, of course, one of the things that I have found as a financial advisor assisting, small business owners is that, you sometimes are uncertain because you don't have, let's say, either a handle on your finances, or you may not understand them 100%, or you may not know how to project. I mean, there are so many layers that you can go through in your finances, right? Needing money, yet still not being able to prove that you need that money. That is a great, there's a big gap right there. And this is one of the reasons that we exist, right? That EDC exists, so that we can help those businesses who may not have the best handle on their finances, but need that assistance. And that's exactly what we can help you with.
Yeah, and I want to share again, I'm an EDC client, and I got an EDC Thomas Fire recovery loan, and I was so ashamed and so embarrassed. and I didn't want anyone to know that I needed help. And so I just want to put that out there for you guys. Like, there is no shame in asking for help. I know it can be scary and intimidating, but like, this is why EDC exists. And like, my business is here because I asked EDC for help. So like, get that shame out of your brain. Okay, if your business was only slightly affected by COVID, slightly less income, should we apply for PPP? So this would be their first round PPP application.
Well, so for the first draw, you do need to prove that you did have a significant amount of a loss, right? Because that is one of the requirements. So if you can prove that you had at least 25% or more in losses, then in reduced revenue, then you can apply. If it was slightly and you don't. It wasn't, as much as 25%, then unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to apply.
Yeah, so for PPP, what they ask you to do is look at 2019 versus 2020, and you compare each of the quarters. So 2019 Q1 to 2020 Q1, and one of those quarters needs to have at least a 25% gross revenue deduction. And Juliana, what is a gross revenue and where do I find it?
So you can find it in two places. If you are using your tax return, then you would, depending on the type of filer, of course, I don't have all of those line numbers memorized, but depending on the type of filer that you are, so if you're a sole proprietor, and if you look at I believe it's number 7, if I'm not mistaken, on your Schedule C, you will see your gross receipts there. Or if you are, a corporation, that would be, an 1120 or 1120S, you will see that at the top, under your income, and it'll say there, gross revenue. That is where you find it if you are using your tax return. So what is it that you reported to the IRS that was your gross revenue? What were your total sales for the year that are, again, reported or stated on your tax return? So go look for your tax return and look, the word says gross revenue. That is one way that you can find it if you're using your tax return. However, if you're not using your tax return and are using your P&L, your profit and loss, then it'll be your total income at the top, all right? So keep that in mind, total income at the top of the P&L. So revenue or total income, then expenses. So that's where you can find your total income, which that is your gross revenue.
Yeah, and it's your, and think about it too, it's your sales. So as a business, I have like a few different kinds of income that show up on my P&L. So I've got the sales, right, that my customers pay me, but then I also have like travel credits. So like my credit card like lets me reverse travel charges or whatever and apply like those points to reduce the charges. So there are lots of like places that income comes in, but those other kinds of income are on the bottom of your P&L. So the top is your gross receipts, and then all of your expenses, and then there's sometimes other income at the bottom. So top. We are an LLC. We use 75% of the first PPP on payroll and 25% on rent and utilities. It took 10 weeks to use, so we opted for the 24-week period. We did make a distribution to owners in the 24-week period, but long after PPP funds were expended on forgivable expenses. Will these owner distributions affect forgiveness of PPP?
No, so if they disbursed after the covered period, no, it does not affect your PPP forgiveness. If they use it within the 24-week period, I mean, if you use the funds within 10 weeks, then you obviously fall under the 24. However, I would assume that if it took you 10 weeks to use it for both payroll and other expenses, you actually do qualify for all of payroll, because if you think of the 24 weeks, you can choose to do a percentage to payroll, at least 60% for it to be considered for full forgiveness, and 40% other expenses. However, if you use even though you use the funds all within the 10 weeks, but you have payroll reports that show your 24-week period, right? Or within that 24-week period for the full amount of payroll, you can actually elect to say that you used 100% of it for payroll, because you do have a way to prove that. So I would consider maybe looking at your total payroll spend within those 24 weeks and then apply for that. And therefore, if you had payroll and if you had enough payroll or employees on payroll, then your distributions would not affect the forgiveness there. So make sure if you have a bookkeeper, tax accountant that can walk through those those totals for you, great. If not, give EDC a call and we can assist you.
Yes. One clarification on PPP first round versus second round. So I imagine me today, so it's like the second round application, but imagine I haven't applied yet. So this is my first time applying for PPP, but it's not like before. For first applications now, do you still need to show a 25% reduction, or is it only for second draw?
Thank you for clarifying. It's for first draw. You don't, obviously you didn't take advantage of the first time. So yes, you can apply. And I'm glad that we clarified it, because I think we said it, we said it where we said the first draw, you have to show 25% decrease. No, the first draw, you don't need to show a 25% decrease, but the second draw, you do have to show a 25% decrease.
Great. Can you get the employee retention credit if your PPP loan is forgiven?
As long as you can apply for the ERTC credit, as long as it's not for the same period that you used your PPP for. I was actually looking for that information in more detail through the IRS, and I couldn't really, find it. I do find that the IRS does take a little bit longer to update. So keep checking back, I'll keep checking back, but as long as the funds were not used within the same period, or you're not claiming the credit for the same payroll. An example would be that you did receive your PPP loan towards the end of 2020, and you for the fourth quarter, you wouldn't be able to to apply for that credit because you are still within the PPP period. So just make sure that your cover period for the PPP, and that when you claim the credit, you are not doing it for that same period.
Great. How do you file the emergency sick leave tax credit versus the employee retention tax credit?
So that is done within your payroll forms. So when you are processing your payroll, depending on who you're using as your payroll provider, if you're using QuickBooks, they have the ability, or they have the option for you to select what type of pay you are giving. And if you are not using QuickBooks, but you're using a third party like Paycheck, ADP, or Gusto, or any other of those platforms or payroll providers, everyone has a different way of how they're allocating those funds. But when you make that paycheck, it is supposed to go on a different line than your regular wages. So that's very important. I actually had I had to assist a business owner who had paid the 80 hours of sick leave, and they paid it as regular sick leave. So it is ideal that you have two types of sick leave: your regular sick leave that we're all required to pay, should the pandemic not occurred or the disaster not occurred. But then there is that national sick leave, or the paid family leave, that is specific by the CARES Act. Make sure that it's being paid, it's in a different line item, because then that information is gonna, it's gonna drive into your payroll forms, like your 941, your D9, and your D9C. Mainly, obviously, the 941. And if you look up a 941 form compared to any other previous quarters, you will see how that there's a difference there. You will see that the 941 for prior quarters or prior years does not have that non-refundable credit, or the sick leave. There is a calculation that happens. This is why we encourage you to have an expert in payroll processing to be assisting you with payroll, because it is a bit complex, but it is really in the way that you're paying. So if you're using QuickBooks, make sure you have those selections. If you're using desktop, it's a bit different than the online. I mean, it gets more complex, but again, If you still have, need assistance with that, first, your payroll provider, second, contact EDC.
Great. Can I apply for ERTC credit for Q2 and Q3 2020?
You could if you didn't apply for a PPP again during those periods. So just keep that in mind. So if you did, yes, you can apply for those credits. And this is why we said you might have paid all of your payroll taxes within the quarter that like you were supposed to, but then you didn't take advantage of that ERTC credit. Now you can, that's what that 7200 form that I shared on one of the slides is specifically for that.
Great. What is the SVO grant period?
We don't have that information yet. Again, we just know that it's in the works and the details are yet to come, but we don't have those set dates yet.
Great. And yeah, so because so many people are interested in this SVO program, our intention is once we have a more complete set of information, we'll dedicate one of these webinars just to SVO. So we're going to continue to trickle out the information as it comes available to us, and then we'll really dig into SVO when we know a lot of those answers. So unfortunately, I'm going to ask there are a bunch of questions in the queue about, I'm a bowling alley, do I qualify? I'm a this, do I qualify? So the answer is we don't know yet, and we will let you know as soon as we know.
Yeah. And one recommendation that I would say, because I was also trying to figure out how we can maybe answer some of these questions, right? As far as like what exactly falls under this, under these categories that the SBA has provided. And if you go to the NAIC code, and if you were to find what type of business you are, it really kind of nails it down to see, you need, but if you had to select an NACIS code.
Yeah, that code.
If you had to find what that code is, would you fall under the performing arts, live venue and all of those? Because when I was, doing a few of those, I always came down to the same type of NAIC code. So I would maybe, start there just to see if your business, falls under that NAIC code for any of these same, eligible entities.
Great. Do we know yet if there will be any limitations on the number of applications you can make for that SVO? So like we have one question, it sounds like he's a live venue owner, a producer, a performer, and a manager. So does all of that get rolled into one application, or would those be 4 separate applications? Do you have to pick the highest earning business like we've seen with other applications?
So it's going to mainly be how you file your taxes and how you provide that information. So if you have a business, if you have an entity for every different business, I have yet to know if you can apply for multiple businesses, right? However, if it's one entity, like your business is a corporation, let's say, or you have an LLC, or you're the sole proprietor, and then you have DBAs, because you're still one filer, then it'll be for all of them, right? Because that's how you file your taxes. So it's really going to depend on that. I have yet to know if they can apply for multiple businesses, even if they're different entities. So again, more to come as more details also come to us.
Great. So someone asked about applying for SVO and second PPP. So we want to make sure everyone knows that you can't apply for SVO if you received PPP in December, right?
Yeah, so if you received PPP before December 27, then yes, you could apply. Sorry, if you received, let me see here. I want to make sure that I answered that correctly, because I just got that information. If you received your PPP loan, hold on. So before December 27, then you can apply. But if it was after, then no, you would have to make a determination if which of the two you want to apply for. All right. So if it was before, you had a PPP before, then yes, you can apply for this new grant. But if you then have to decide between one or the other, if it was after December 27th.
Great. And out of all of the relief programs, are those the only two where you have to choose? I think that's the only one where you have to choose, right?
So far, yes, or as long as you can prove that you're not using it for the same purpose. But yes, for this particular program, again, you're not prohibited if you have, if you received it before December 27th.
Great. And when do you think second round PPP will close? Do we have a date?
Second round PPP will be open through March 31st or until all funds are exhausted. So if the funds are not exhausted, and one of the things I have seen is that there are businesses that, don't meet the full 25%, qualification. So, the funds are not going as fast as that first round yet, it is eligible through March 31st or until all funds are exhausted.
Do you, because you can't apply for both, do you think that we will get the SVO open before second round PPP closes?
That I wouldn't know. I mean, it was expected that, that information would be available as soon as it was announced or, little after that, but it's been taken, a bit longer. Again, I'm personally checking every morning, making, is there any change? Is there any change? And I haven't, and unfortunately, it's been longer than what it was anticipated probably to take.
Great. Would any PPP, Eidl, PUA, or grants received in 2020 be considered part of your 2020 gross income when considering a second PPP application?
So your PUA, that goes on your that wouldn't go on your tax return on your business, right? Because PUA is unemployment for the individual. So that would be reported on a separate, differently on your tax return. So make sure that you check with your tax preparer as how PUA is reported versus how your sales or the income from your business is reported. And that will then determine, how those two are combined.
Great. And so like when I got PPP, Eidl, and the Ventura County grant, that doesn't go in the top gross income. That goes in that bottom other income category, right?
Right. And again, that is why it's important that you check with your tax preparer, because I have seen some tax preparers including all of the income under gross revenue, even if it's listed on the P&L, below. However, if you go to whatever form you are completing, there is a section for gross revenue, and there's also a section for other income, which is normally where those, that information will go under. However, there is obviously guidance on how to calculate that, that gross income. So check with your tax preparer, most importantly, as to what would go under that.
Great. I am using 2019 payroll for second PPP, where at that time I had 4 employees. I furloughed 2 employees because the business still didn't pick up. Should I put 4 employees or 2 employees on my application?
So at the time of application, what is your employee count? That is what you complete in the application. At the time of application, what is your employee count? Even though you're going to probably qualify for something higher, you obviously will be able to, under forgiveness, give an explanation. This is where the safe harbor rule applies, because you would be able to show that, if they were, the goal with the PPP is that you keep your employees on payroll. So if you had to furlough, there must be a reason as to, was it due to COVID-19 or was it due for other reasons? So, just make sure that you understand that what is the reason that you furloughed those employees.
Great. I just logged into Lendistry and it says incomplete. So I guess it's because I didn't upload a hard copy of proof. I will wait and upload it on the second round. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's most likely what it is. I mean, if it doesn't let you upload, which most likely won't, yes, you will need to wait. And again, also wait for instruction from Lendistry if they've given you, if they've contacted you.
Well, and the Lendistry website is a little wonky too. So I just logged in to check mine and it says pending document upload, but I uploaded all my documents. And then under that, it says this will show up even if you have uploaded all your documents. And I got an email from Lendistry saying I'm waitlisted for round 2. So I know I did all those things. So yeah, I think just wait.
Yeah,
Just
just
hold
wait,
on.
because remember, it's really technicality within the, making sure that all the updates are happening. Lendistry is listening to the feedback that, resource partners are giving them about, the making sure that applicants understand what's happening and, and the process. So they are making enhancements towards how to improve or how to assist for applicants to have more clarity on what the process is. And if I'm not mistaken, that is one of the updates they might be doing on how it shows when it goes from one stage to the other. However, again, follow Lendistry's guidance. If you've been contacted and been told, just wait for that versus you trying to figure out what's going on within that portal, right? Because then that just kind of might complicate things.
Okay, great. I applied for a second draw PPP to Montecito Bank and Trust over a week ago, but I haven't heard back. I received a first draw from Community West. I'm most likely eligible as a woman-owned business and my numbers are down 82%. What is the best link to apply for that second loan?
So if you don't, one of the things I would say is don't apply to multiple banks, because as they are preparing your documentation and sending it to the SBA, right? The SBA does get, a communication and does assign a file number or a loan number. So they, we don't want to, they don't want to see that there's multiple loans somewhere, because that could deny the loan. So if you've already applied through Montecito Bank and Trust, then you must have received an email from Montecito Bank and Trust letting you know what the next steps were going to be. And yes, if you can imagine it, they're probably also overwhelmed with requests. So I would just say, be patient. If they gave you instructions on who to contact or how to contact them, then I would follow that first before applying for it anywhere else.
Yeah, so don't duplicate your applications because it'll just sort of slow it all down. Also, we have heard recommendation to go back to your first PPP lender if you're making a second application. So for anyone who hasn't yet done their second round application, if you're able to go back to whoever gave you the first one.
That is correct.
The PPP second round is asking about my loan forgiveness, which was accomplished several months ago. How do I let them know I've done this?
So if they're asking you about it, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know I'm not sure which bank you're using, but they will give you, you will need your original SBA loan number for the first round. And if you've been forgiven, I'm pretty sure they're giving you instructions on how to let them know about that. Because not having forgiveness does not disqualify you for getting excuse me, a second PPP loan. So even if you have not been forgiven, you can still apply for that second round of PPP. So that should not be a reason that it delays your process. Just again, check the instructions from your lender, and or check back in with your lender to ask them, how do I let you know about this? Is this information that you need to know now, or would it be part of my maybe second forgiveness application?
Yeah, fun thing about PPP is the banks are all doing their own applications and have slightly different interpretations of what the SBA sent them. So with all PPP nuance questions, you just have to go back and ask your lender, because the process or the questions or the application of the rules might be slightly different depending on where you applied. So that's
right.
fun. I have a PPP loan request in progress. I'm not allowed to work as of today. Can I still use it as I have lost so much this year? So Charles, what I'm hearing is you are applying for PPP, but for some reason your business isn't able to operate. So the question is, can I apply for PPP if my business isn't operational?
So you should be able to apply because that is one of the reasons. Now, keep in mind, if you're applying for a PPP, keeping your employees on payroll, then definitely, because it'll be forgiven. You can still apply. If you don't use it the right way, you won't be forgiven that amount of money. So then you will lose, you'll have to pay it back. So you can apply and use it. However, if you're not using it for the right purpose, again, like employees, keeping your employees on payroll, then you would not get forgiveness. So I would, if you're not able to work, or if you're applying for yourself, meaning, you're a self-employed individual and you need this income, then yes, you should be able to apply, and you should also be able to prove that you used it for, to pay yourself. So depending on where you're at with paying your employees, if they're all, if they're furloughed, and you're not keeping them on payroll, then you can apply for the PPP, but it just won't get forgiven. So keep that in mind.
Great. And so I misread that question. I'm sorry. So he is now able to work. So opposite of the question. So I applied for a PPP. I am able to work. Can I still use it?
So if you apply for a PPP in 2020 and were not able to use those funds,
No.
then
Wrong question.
Okay.
Wrong question. So the answer is yes. So I received PPP. My business is still operational. And so, yes, you can apply for PPP and use it for payroll, even if your business is still up and running.
Yes. So make sure that the funds are exhausted, though, within that cover period. That's where I want to make sure that if you had if you had funds from a previous PPP and you had those funds because you were closed, then you have to prove that you use those funds within the cover period from the disbursement, right? So if you are applying now and using them now, of course you can apply or use them.
Great.
That way.
Question number 1, I am now receiving unemployment benefits until March 14th. Can I apply for PPP at this now, or do I need to wait for when unemployment runs out?
So you cannot double dip. So you would need to choose between PPP or PUA or unemployment. So if you are receiving unemployment and you want to wait until the 14th, yes. I mean, if they don't extend unemployment and you don't want to remain on unemployment, then yes, you can apply for PPP after the fact. Otherwise, if you wanted to apply now, that would mean that you need to report the PPP proceeds to PUA or to unemployment, so that then they can stop paying you for that period of time and then reconvene when you have exhausted the funds for PPP. So if you have to choose between the two, I mean, take a look at the calculations, what you're receiving, what you would be receiving from PPP versus what you are receiving now. That's usually what folks that needed to know which of the two. You can't double dip. So just make sure that you're not applying or using the funds for the same period.
And if you need help weighing those two options, give EDC a call, because they can help you look through what your PPP would be versus what you've got left in unemployment and help you make those decisions.
That is correct, particularly if you're a business owner who had a significant amount of income in 2019 or whenever you're using to calculate your 2019. If you had a great year and you showed a larger benefit, or you showed a significant amount of income for PPP, when you go to unemployment, it may not be the same there. So yes, please give EDC a call.
Great. I am planning to open a family trust and place my business and personal bank accounts in the trust. Can I apply for the grants if my business is within the trust?
Can you repeat that question?
Yep.
Yes.
I am planning to open a family trust and place my business and personal bank accounts inside the trust. Can I apply for the grants if my business is within a trust?
I would, if you're applying for, I guess, which grant? Is it the California grant, or is it the SBO grant? Depending on what that is, remember, I mentioned that the way that you file your taxes. So if you are, there's the particular requirements for the type of entities and that qualify under that, under those qualifications. So please make sure that you check, well, first, which of the two you're applying for, and that you follow those guidelines regarding, how you can apply for the grant.
Great. When comparing 2019 to 2020, March 2020, due to COVID, is already 25% less. Does that qualify since I received PPP a month later? And this is for second draw PPP.
Yes, so one of my recommendations has been that you run a profit and loss for the year divided by quarters, and then compare it each quarter to the previous year. So if you are using QuickBooks, you can just profit and loss total by quarter, then do previous period comparison with percentage, and that way you will be able to see first quarter 2020 compared to 2019 with the column of percentage. So that is going to give you which quarter you had, either the 25 or greater, and you can choose any of the quarters from 2020 compared to 2019 in 2020. So please make sure that you are using a complete quarter, and you can choose any of those four.
Juliana, we have come to the end. We did it.
We
did it. Okay. Thank you all for being here. One last plug for EDC. They are here for you. It's a lot less scary than it sounds to call someone and ask for help. So give them a call. You're not alone. Hang in there. And also remember, we're doing this webinar every week, and we alternate Wednesdays and Fridays. So this week is Wednesday, next week will be Friday. And because you came here, you will get an invite to the next webinar on next Friday. We will be emailing out a recording of this webinar. We will not be emailing out a copy of the PowerPoint because this information is changing all the time. And so the best resource for the most up-to-date information is the EDC website. So this is a good snapshot for what we know today, but it may change tomorrow. So just refer back to that EDC website. And team, can you put it one more time in the chat, the EDC phone number? And we have come to the end. Good job. Thanks
Wonderful.
for doing this with me.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next week, and hang tight, be patient, and remember, you're not alone. We're all in this together. So thank you so much.
Yep.